Hey there, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to a new premium tutorial with PSD-Box. I'm Andrei, and in this tutorial I want to show you how I created this kind of cyberpunk manipulation in Photoshop. I want to show you how to create these colors and this light effect and how I created this lights over here on these letters, and we're going to use just like regular manipulation techniques, blend modes, and I'm going to show you how I created this device over here. We're not going to create it from scratch. I'm going to give you actually you have this already finished if you want to use it, if you don't want to create it yourself, but I'm going to show you a little bit the layers that I used to create this, how I made this bracelet over here, and well, how I made this manipulation. I'm going to show you the original image just so you can see how it looked like. I'm going to deactivate this layer mask, and this is the original image. I got this image from unsplash.com or pexels.com. I'm going to add the link there here on the screen so you can see it if you want to download others. Now you have this PSD file, of course, so you can take a look at all the layers, but on this tutorial maybe I'm not going to follow the same exact steps because I made this a few months ago, and honestly I don't really remember exactly the same steps that I took, but we're going to end up with a result pretty close to this. Let me show you the images that I used. So what I did is I started by looking at neon images. By the way, I got the inspiration to create this kind of artwork from a guy in Russia. I found it on Instagram. I found him on Instagram, and I really like what he does. He is on a totally higher level than me, but I just wanted to create something similar because I like that style. So I'm going to add a link here and I'm going to show you some of his artworks. Maybe you can go and follow him on Instagram, but let me show you the resources that we have here. So basically I got lots of neon images from unsplash.com, and you'll have, I'm going to give you some of them just so you have something to work with, but you can download them for free from pexels.com or unsplash.com. Let's go back to Photoshop, and I'm not gonna spend time extracting the woman from the background because I'm gonna already give you the layer mask. I think I have it right over here. Let me check it. No, but I'm gonna show you how to get it. So one thing I want to do is I want to save this as a file so you can use it as a layer mask, and we don't want to because I don't want to spend time showing you how to do this. So I'm gonna come back right after I save this image. So we're gonna start by opening the image of the model, which is this one over here. Now, since I already have the layer mask saved, I don't want to spend time tracing this, and it's really easy. So the tutorial is not about how to extract the image from the background. So what I'm gonna do is just open this model mask.png. I'm gonna open it, and I'm gonna copy it, Command A or Control A and Command C or Control C on a PC. And I'm gonna create a layer mask for this, and I'm gonna activate this layer mask on full screen by pressing Option or Alt and clicking on it. This will switch it on full screen, and I'm gonna paste that image right over there, and that's my mask. Alt click again, and you can see that now we have the image extracted. You can see I left some space around the hair because I wanna mask this with my brush a little later on. Now we're gonna have to create the background. The foreground is okay. I left that card over there. I think it looks nice. So let's create the foreground. First I want to name this model, and we're gonna open another stock image. It's not over here. You'll find it here in the resources folder, but I have it somewhere else. I have it here on the neons. You can see I download usually a lot of images before I start making the manipulation. So usually I try several of them. I make really quick composites and see which work and which don't work, and at the end I stick with what works, and then I'm gonna delete the other images. So for the background, I think I used this one. You can use any image you want. We're gonna blur this anyway, so I'm gonna copy it, Command A, Control C, and Command W to close it. Now I'm gonna put this right over there, and I'm gonna make it a little bigger so it fits and covers my whole thing over here. I have to look at the original image. I'm gonna switch back and forth so I can see more or less where things are. Here in the background, I want to see more or less, I can see this red square. I want to have pretty much at the same spot. Okay. Great, now I have the background. Let's name this BG, and I'm gonna blur this. I don't remember the amount of blur that I used. I'm gonna use the blur gallery, and I'm gonna use the fill blur because I think it looks more realistic. But because we're using a really big image, it's gonna take a lot longer to apply the blur. You can see that even the preview, it's taking a lot of time. So for this tutorial, what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna make the image smaller. I'm gonna make it just 2000 pixels wide, so I can work a little faster and my computer, my Mac doesn't get stuck. Yeah, let's go to filter, blur, and I'm gonna choose fill blur. Okay, now you can see it works a lot faster. Okay, I'm gonna put this to about 25 pixels, or yeah, pixels. This, well, actually it's too much. Let's try with 20. I still want to read some of that stuff over there. Actually 20 is okay. If you're using a really big canvas size, like the original image, you maybe have to use a little more blur. Remember this value that you put here, because we're gonna have to use it on other images, and we have to use the same value so that we don't get strange stuff here. I'm gonna click OK, and now it's gonna take a while to apply the filter. Okay, and we're done. Now let's start adding some stuff here on the foreground, just to make it a little more interesting. And I used some smoke for that. You can use other particles if you want. Here on the resources folder, you'll find the images. I don't remember which one I used. I think I used both actually. I'm gonna open this. Since it's on a black background, you can just put this here on top of the woman. And let's name this smoke foreground. And we're going to change the blend mode to screen so that the black background goes away. And we're going to have to make it smaller with Control-Command-T. You can load the free transform and just add this thing over here. Now it's too strong. I think it's too visible. So what I'm going to do, you can drop the opacity if you want, but I think it's better to just use levels or curves. I'm going to use curves and just darken the whole thing a bit. And this, what it does is just increases the contrast, and I think the effect is a lot it's a lot more realistic, because with dropping the opacity, what you do is lower the whole thing linearly. But with curves or with levels, if you increase contrast, you're just going to increase the contrast on the parts that are well, on the whole image, so it's not that linear. I think it's a lot more realistic that way. Okay, you can combine this. You can use levels or curves to increase the contrast, and then just lower the opacity slightly, like to about 75, not more than that. So we have that on the foreground. Let me check my original image over here so I can see what I have, because as I said, I don't remember everything, so I have to keep watching it. Yeah, we have to add some smoke on the background as well. So I'm gonna, just for the sake of it, I'm gonna use the other image, this one. You can use the same one, but I just give you two of them so you have more stock images to work with. And I'm gonna paste this on top of the background, so right over there, and I'm gonna name this smoke BG, so smoke background. Again, we're gonna change the blend mode to screen, and we'll have to move this right over there. Probably I'm gonna just rotate it a little bit, like so. I think the other one is a lot more realistic, that other smoke, but anyways. And I'm gonna blur this a little bit as well. I'm gonna just use Gaussian blur for this because it's quicker, and about 6 or 10 pixels, it's okay. Now I used some curves, I think, on this. I'm not sure, let me check it. Yep, I used hue, saturation, and levels. I used levels just or curves just because I wanted to do exactly the same thing. You can see that by dropping this, it kind of gets more transparent and it's less visible. The only purpose of this smoke here is to fill in a little bit the scene and not have it like that. And because it has more white there, we have some light here on the woman, and we're gonna add some glows around here. It's gonna make her stand out a little more. I also added some color to it using hue saturation. You can desaturate it a little bit, or you can colorize it. You can give it a color if you want. I think I did something a little more bluish, like so. You can see the before and after. Not a big change, but definitely some change. And this is without it and with this smoke here on the background. Okay, we're done with the background, a very basic composition over here. And the next thing I want to do is I want to take care of the hair. Now, it's really easy. We're not going to use pretty much any kind of advanced masking, just brushing, only brushing. So what I did is I get the brush tool, use a really soft one, hardness 0. Size, you're gonna have to vary it. I'm gonna use 73 for this canvas size, but if you use something really high resolution or really big canvas, you have to use a bigger brush, but something like this. And I'm gonna start by using an opacity and flow of 100%. And actually, you have to use a bigger brush, and you'll see why in a second. We're gonna have to start brushing around these edges, like so. We're gonna fix this part over here in just a second, and just get rid of that hard edge on the mask. You're gonna take away some part of the hair, but don't worry, we're gonna recover it. Now, the reason why I'm using this technique, and I'm not gonna go to channels and try to extract the hair really precisely, is because we have the background is out of focus, and actually I'm going to deactivate the layer mask a little bit. You can see that around her hair we don't have that much definition, and the hair is kind of out of focus as well. So it's really easier to blend it with this brush instead of trying to get every single detail out of the hair and try to mask this really precisely. Okay, so it's gonna work just fine. Here I'm gonna use a smaller brush, because switch colors with the X key. Okay, and on top of that, the colors are gonna match anyway, so you'll see that in just a second. I'm gonna fix that over here, and I'm gonna use a harder brush to just fix the edge, like so. Shift click to create straight lines, like so. And here I'm going to use something softer to get that thing back. Now here, I don't know what happened here. I guess the photographer himself or herself made an edit on the image. I don't like it, so what I'm going to do is just use the clone stamp, click on the image, not on the layer mask, and just clone parts of the hair right over there, because it was really strange. We're gonna cover this with neons and light glow, so it's not gonna be really that visible. Now, the second step on the hair is lowering the opacity of the brush. I'm gonna start with 50 and flow maybe 20. I repeat this every time I do it on my tutorials, or at least every time I remember. Changing the opacity and flow is really easy, just using the numbers on your keyboard. If you have a keyboard with a keypad there on the right, you just have to press, for example, 8, and it's going to change the opacity to 80. And if I press Shift 9, for example, it's going to change the flow. So when you press and hold the Shift key, it's going to affect the flow. I'm going to start with 5 and 30, I think, or 5 and 20. And if you don't have a keypad, it's going to work with the upper numbers, with the upper numbers row on the keyboard. But on Windows, I found that it's not working. I don't know why. So on Mac it's working, but on Windows, at least in my experience, is not working. Okay, let's get back to the brush, 5 and 20, and same soft brush, and keep brushing. If you have remainings of the old background, just keep brushing that. It's too much, it's too strong. Oops. I'm gonna lower the opacity to 30 and the flow to 20 and try again. Even more. If you have a graphics tablet like I have, try and activate the pen pressure. Oops, where is pen pressure? Transfer here. And I'm going to put this on pen pressure, and that way I can control these values even more by how hard I press on the pen. If you don't have a graphics tablet, lower the opacity to maybe 20 or 10 and the flow to 20 or 30. You want to have total control about how much you take away of the background, and just brush like this. I'm going to fast forward just to see that I'm painting really over the hair without caring too much about the background, and just get rid of these remainings over here and the edges. And you have to be a little patient. It's going to take some time, so maybe 5 minutes or something like that. So I'm going to fast forward and we're going to see when I'm done. Okay, I'm done. What I'm doing here is just using a smaller brush and just trying to mimic a little bit some of the hairs flying around. Just 1 pixel hair brush, like so. See that? I don't know if you can see it on the video, but I'm painting with white on the layer mask just to kind of mimic some of the hairs flying around here and not have something really that soft on the edges. And we're done. Here on this part over here is not really that looking, is not looking that nice, but with some glows we're gonna hide that. We can do the same here, just some flying hairs by revealing the original background here. I'm gonna show you the layer mask so you can see how it looks like. So this is basically what I'm doing. Not really that complicated, and since we're dealing with out of focus backgrounds, I think this is the quickest technique, and it's gonna give you acceptable results. Now we're done with the hair. Let's move on and see what I did next. So yeah, adjustments that I made on the woman. I used some curves to do this. I'm going to create a curves adjustment, and I'm going to clip this to the woman layer, to the model layer. And the objective here is to make, you can see that the whole thing is bluish. Now I can see the image. This is not the final image. It's this. Everything goes towards a bluish dominant color, so we have to try and match that. The objective is to integrate the woman with that background. So I'm going to go to the red layer, and you can, I don't know if you can notice it, but this has a red tint on it, and I don't like that. What you can do, you can try and see, I don't know what it's going to do, but you can press, and with the curves opened, you can press and hold the Option key or Alt key on a computer and click the Auto button. This will open these auto correction options, and what you can do is auto correct this using the Find Dark and Light colors and clicking the Snap Neutral Midtones. It's making a correction, but I don't really like it. Let's try the other ones. No, I thought it was going to work better, but it's not in this case. So I'm going to cancel that, and I'm going to do it manually. So I'm going to go to the red channel, and I'm going to take away reds from this image. By doing this, it's going to make the image more cyan. So this is why you see it more like greenish. Now on the green, we're going to do the same. We're going to take away some of that. And then we're going to go to the blue channel, and we're going to raise this up like so. Probably, let's try and see if we take away more red. Yeah, I think that looks better. You can see the before and after. Now the image has a little more contrast, is a little darker, but we can see that it integrates a little better with the background there, at least in my opinion. So I'm going to leave it like this. And we're pretty much done with the composition. The only thing that we have to do now is add some more details, some neon, some lights, and I'm going to show you how I created those colored letters here. So actually, let's do that now. I'm going to create a new layer on top of everything. And actually, no, this layer is going to go under the foreground smoke. The smoke should always be on top of everything because it's covering everything. So let's name this light letters. Now, in order to select them, you can try using the magic wand tool and try and just click on the image, but first you have to select the model layer. I'm gonna hide the rest of the layers so that they don't bother me. So I'm gonna press Option and click the eye icon. This will hide everything except the layer that I'm on. And I'm gonna try and use this tolerance. Let's bump it up to 27. Still not enough. 52. Nope, not working good. Let's try the quick selection tool. Yeah, this one seems to look a lot better. And just, you can see just by clicking it's going to select everything pretty nicely. And the same here. Here we're going to have some more trouble, but we're going to fix it with the brush. Great, I'm going to fill this. I'm going to go to this layer over here. Oh, actually you have to first alt click the eye again so that we reveal the rest of the layers that we just deactivated a moment ago. And I'm going to fill this with a color which I don't remember the color. I don't remember which color I used. Let me check it. Actually, I'm going to sample it. And the color is this one. I'm going to copy the value because I don't know if it's going to stick with this color once I get back here. Well, it does. So the color code is, just if you want to copy it, is FFEB8C. Just this sort of unsaturated bright yellow. I'm going to fill this with Alt Backspace. And I will have to fix some parts over here. This B over here, it's filled completely. We don't need that, so let's get the brush tool, the eraser actually. Or let's try using the, here I'm gonna remove that from there, go back and just delete that. And here on this right side, right over here, we have to use the brush. So I'm gonna get the brush tool. I'm gonna use the same color that I have sampled over there. Okay, now I have the letters, everything looks nice. I'm gonna leave it like so. And now, in order to make them really shine, I used layer styles. Now, you already have the layer styles, on the resources folder. And the way you use it is just go to, let's try this way. Let's go to Window and choose Styles. Actually, I have them here, but let me just reset my styles just so you can see how you would do it. Normally, these are the default styles with Photoshop. Just click this menu over here. If you have an older version of Photoshop, there will be some kind of menu or cogwheel or something, some icon that allow you to open this menu, and just go to Load Styles. And here on the resources, you will find lightletters.sasl. Open that, and it should add them here on the bottom. And for some reason, oh yeah, it's exactly the same style. You can see it says light bracelet, and maybe there's another one. I think it's gonna add them. Well, actually, it's this one, light bracelet. I think I named it that way. You can see what it does. I'm gonna go into the layer style so you can see how I made this. You can see I used some inner shadow, which created this kind of a darker border. Then I created some pattern overlay just to add some texture. Let me zoom in a little more so you can see that texture. You can see there because it was too flat. Okay, so that's why I added that pattern. It's already integrated in the layer style. Then there's some outer glow, which creates a really big and soft glow. Then some drop shadow for this glow over here. So it has several layers of glow. Then we have the drop shadow that creates this really bright glow but really small. And then we have even another one. So I created the glow by layering layer styles. That's how I got this effect over here. So you can see it looks pretty nice. Now the next step would be to create the lights that these letters cast on the woman's body. But before we do that, let's create the bracelet over here. You will see that it's really simple. Since it uses the same layer style, you could even create it on this layer, but just for the sake of it, let's create a new one, have more control. And we're gonna get the brush tool. We're gonna use this a hard brush, 100%, or actually that's 85, I think would be more realistic. And let's see the size. 35, it's too much. I'm gonna lower it a little bit. A little bigger, like so. Now actually it's really easy. The only thing I did is I just created something like that, and that's it. Now if you want to have more control and create it more regular, what you can do is use the pen tool and set the setting here to path instead of shape, and create a shape like this. This is going to create something a little more regular. Make it round so that it looks like it's actually wrapped around her arm, like so. Yeah, that looks better. Now I'm gonna right click and choose stroke path, but before you do that you must make that test that I made earlier, so you can but I did something wrong here. I clicked the layer mask for some reason. Let me delete that. Okay. You have to make that test. You have to prepare your brush with the correct size and with the correct hardness. Also, let's use the same color that I used on the other image. And let's go back to my path because I want to recover that. Get my pen tool and right click and choose stroke path. And from here, I'm going to choose the stroke to be my brush. You can stroke with other tools here, but I'm going to stroke with the brush because I already have it prepared. I'm not going to activate simulate pressure, and I'm going to click OK. And now I'm going to press delete to delete that work path. It's no longer here. And I have my bracelet. Now, there's one thing I want to do to make sure that it's more realistic and it looks like it's actually wrapped around her arm. You can see a really small detail of how I ended this in this point over here. See that over there? Let's try and do this here. I'm gonna select that layer. Let's name it bracelet. Get the brush tool, and actually let's create a layer mask. And with the hard brush, a little harder, about 95%, 95 pixels. Just gently paint like that so that it ends not in this rounded part over there, but instead of that have to end in kind of an angle, a pointy shape. You can see, I don't know if you can notice it, it's not a big deal, but it does a lot. You can see before and after. See that? Before and after. Take a look at this area over there. I'm painting a little mask. Right over there, there and there. See that? Okay, now we have the bracelet. The only thing we have to do is copy this layer style. So select the layer style option, click on the FX icon and drag it on the other layer, and there you have the bracelet. Now, we're done with this. I also made this really weird shape here, like a futuristic shape or something. I'm not gonna do it. I just downloaded some futuristic shape brushes, just stroked once with the brush and then added some layer styles with the glow, and that's pretty much it. I'm not gonna do it for this for the tutorial, but you can take a look at the PSD file if you wanna see how I made that. Okay, we're done with this. Let's add that gadget over here before we create the glows and everything, so that way we have everything in place, and then we can move on and add the neons and the rest of the stuff there. I'm gonna open the resources folder because, as I said, I already have this created. You will find this gadget.png file, and you can see it's already created. So all you need to do is just crop it from here and put it on your image. In just a second, I'm going to show you the layers that I have for that. And if you guys want to know how I created this, just I could create a quick free tutorial on showing you how I made this. It's not really that complicated. So I'm going to make it smaller. I think this is a smart object. Nope, I'm gonna turn it into a smart object before doing that because I don't know the exact size that I need for this. Okay, I'm gonna put it right here on her forearm. The size should be more or less like this. Have something fairly realistic, if possible. Okay, now I'm gonna create a layer mask. Let's name this gadget. Oops. Gadget. Okay, and create a layer mask. Now, the reason why I'm creating this layer mask is because I want to hide this top edge. So I'm gonna get the brush tool and paint a big chunk of it, and then just carefully paint it back in. It's a lot easier to do it that way. So just paint a big chunk of that and then just reveal what you need. Okay, now we have to add some shadow to this. I think I used a drop shadow, as simple as that. I'm going to use black. And let's see, a bit of a distance, more spread, like so, and probably not that much opacity. Yeah, I think that looks nice. So an opacity of about 60%, distance 5 pixels and size 13 for the blur effect. And just, this is how it looks like. So it doesn't look that flat. Now I also added some straps here, and I have that file here on the resources folder as well. For some reason, that's not the folder. This is the one. Okay, so you can see it's in PNG format. What I did is I just cropped part of that. Let me set this to normal. And I just cropped a part of it like so. Copy and paste that over there. Rotate it and make it way smaller. And just zoom in so we can see it better. And I just placed it right over there, as simple as that. Like that. And probably I'm gonna put it underneath the gadget. Like that. Because that way it's gonna be affected by that drop shadow of the gadget. And with the brush tool or with the eraser, I'm gonna get rid of that part over there. Probably move it like so. So we have one strap. I'm gonna just duplicate it. Command J and put it right over here. You can use another one, another part of that stock image if you like. But I want to go quick here and just do that. You can also try and add the drop shadow just so you can see how it looks like, but we have to change the angle and less distance and less size. Just, or paint it manually there. Okay. And you would add that here on the left side as well. Like so, but this one would be a little darker. And I'm doing it really quick here, so please don't. Okay, maybe more towards the inside, like so. And in order to make it darker, I will add simply a color overlay. And I'm going to put it on multiply, and that's it, just to mimic the shadow of that arm there. And that's pretty much it. I'm going to show the original really quick. You can skip this if you don't want to see it, but if you're curious about how I made this, I'm going to show you the original thing. Show hide layers. Okay, I have to here it is, gadget. Okay, so I have it as a smart object, so you can see all the layers that I have here. So I made all of this with gradients and shapes, and this is the screen base. Then I added that image over there, and I put it on screen and added some saturation. And then I created the frame, which is simply a shape like this. I made this in Illustrator, I think, and then I added some effects to create it more, make it like more 3D. Bevel and emboss, some color overlay to give it this bluish tone, and a gradient overlay to create sort of a reflection or highlights on it, so it doesn't look that flat. And then I found some images of some screws and just put them there on the corners, and added some effects like drop shadows and inner shadows to create a little bit of a 3D effect. So it's really simple. On the PSD file you can see the layers and just take a look at how I made this. And let's get back to our image. Over here we have the gadget. I think we have everything. Now let's start adding the neon lights here, which really give this more color and more light, which is what I like. I really like this kind of manipulations. Let me group everything in here and name this group gadget. I'm gonna create a new layer. I'm gonna put all of this neon, some of them on top and some of them underneath the model, I think. Let's open our resources folder. And let's go to the neons folder. As I said, you'll have this inside of the resources folder. I'm gonna start with this public market letter. Here I'm gonna crop part of it. I don't need it all. Control C or Command C, don't save. I'm gonna paste it right over here. You can see it's pretty big, so you can change the size to whatever you like, actually. I'm gonna put it there. This will go underneath the model, so I'm gonna drag it down right there underneath the model. I'm gonna change the blend mode to screen, and in order to get rid of that edge over there, I'm gonna press in Control L or Command L to open the levels and just darken the midtones and the darks a little bit until that edge goes away. And the only thing that I have here is the neons themselves. Okay, now we have to blur this. So remember that value that we used on the background, we have to use it again here. In my case, I think it was 20 pixels. I think it's too much, so I'm gonna try with 15, but let's hope it's not looking weird. Or 10. I'm gonna leave it on 10 and then add more. This thing is supposed to be at the same distance as the background, so it should be blur at the same amount, because otherwise you can see it kind of looks fake because you lose that distance effect. So let me try again and blur it with the same amount, but let me make it smaller first. So make it at the correct size. Put it right over there and go to filter, blur gallery, and fill blur. You can use Gaussian blur as well. It's just a preference of mine because it's a little more realistic. It kind of loses too much texture for my taste, so I think I screwed it up a little bit with the amount of blur on the background. But anyway, make it a little bigger. This is just to fill in the scene, so don't worry too much about it. I think I used another sign similar to this one. For example, let's try this one. It's not the one that I used on the original, I think, but doesn't really matter. It's just to fill in the scene. I'm gonna copy that, place it over there, change the blend mode to screen, make it smaller, and I'm gonna add it just right over there, like so. And again, I'm gonna blur it, fill blur, 15 is okay. And you can see that we don't even have to mask the edges here. We don't have to do it. And what else? Let's see if we can fit in something else. I think this one could work. Or maybe, no, that's too crowded with light. Too much light there. Let's try with this one. Paste it right over. Actually, I put all of this underneath the model, so it's easier to find them whenever we want to change this or something. Change the blend mode to screen again. I want to distort it, so I press Ctrl Command T, right click and choose distort, because I want to move this like so. and probably with this one. Maybe with perspective. I don't really like, yeah, probably like so. Okay, I'm gonna blur it. Filter, blur gallery. I'm gonna reapply the same filter, so that's why I'm not gonna go into the filter window. I just applied it straight away. So if you want to reduce the size of your image, of your manipulation, you can see that this neon, right, the one that I just added, if I press Ctrl Command T, it's going way beyond my canvas size, my canvas here. So in order to save some space, what you can do is, if you're absolutely sure that you're gonna leave it there, not gonna move it, you can press Ctrl Command A to select the entire canvas, and with this layer selected, in this case this one, because it's the one that I want to crop, I'm gonna press Ctrl Command X, or simply right click and choose layer via cut, and the original layer, so to say, which is outside, we're gonna drop it, and that way we reduce. That's one way of reducing the size of the manipulation. We can do the same with this one, or actually even with the background, because you can see it's pretty big. So I'm going to press Ctrl Command A, right click on the canvas actually, and choose layer via cut. If you don't see this menu, maybe it's because you have to select one of the selection tools there. And just so you can see that I'm not lying to you, take a look here at where it says dock. Right now it's 209 megabytes, and when I throw this layer away, nothing happened. Oh yeah, 180 megabytes. Okay, let's rename this to BG. Now we're done with the lights. Maybe it's even too much. You can add bokeh effects or whatever you want. I'm gonna leave it like that. I'm not gonna add more stuff here. Let's start adding the glows of light, which is really the fun part of this. I really like to add light effects, and I'm kind of crazy about it. I add this whenever I have the opportunity. So let's do it now. I'm going to create a new layer, but let me take a look at the original, because I don't remember the layers that I created. So I have one for the glows, which is on screen, and then I have one with the color dodge, which is for the casted light. So let's start with that. Let's start casting the lights of this text, the gadget, and this bracelet over here. And also some of the glows, we have to cast them here on the body. So let's do that now. So let's start with those lighting effects. Create this layer, and I'm going to name it casted light. And I'm going to put this on color dodge. Now this blend mode is really sensitive. So we have to try different colors. It works differently, so the effect is not going to be the same on every part of the image. It depends on the highlights and the shadows that we have. So we're going to start with this part over here. I'm going to get the brush tool. I'm going to use a softness of 0% and a slightly bigger size. And I'm going to add an opacity of 50 and flow maybe 50 as well. And I'm not going to activate pen pressure yet until I see how it works. And you can sample a color from the image itself, from the edge over there, this orange tone. And let's make a first stroke and see how that looks like. Not looking that good, so we have to use something darker. That's why I said this blend mode is really sensitive. You have to use really dark tones, because you can see that it's gonna start to be visible right away. So I'm gonna create the first pass over there. Still too strong. I'm gonna drop the flow to 0%, 50 and shift 0. Oops, it's not going to work. 10%, okay. And just a couple of passes like so with this color. Okay, let me check if I have yeah, that is off. And a couple of passes right over there. Here I'm going to use a bigger brush. And the reason why I'm using this low settings on the opacity and flow is because I want to have control over the effect that I'm creating. Okay, so with multiple passes, you can see you can start to build up the effect, and that's what I want. A couple of passes right over there, like so. And let me just show you what I've done so far, before and after. And the same over here. You have to think a bit about how the light would bounce on her own body and what it would do. So a bit of experience comes into play here. I'm not really a professional of this. I'm not the best one on creating this. So what you can do is just create something like this, and then if you're not sure, if you think it's too much, just get the eraser tool. Use a big soft eraser and take away the effect where you don't need it. Again, on the eraser, it's a good idea to also use low opacity and flow, so you can gradually erase stuff. Okay, we're done with that. Maybe here we added some bluish tones because of that gadget over there. So probably here I would paint with a blue color. Let's see, maybe that is too strong. Yeah, it's okay. Something like that. Maybe here on her arm, there on her hand. Oops, that's not good. For the hair, we're gonna use this on another layer because we're gonna use another blend mode. It's too much blue here, so I'm gonna take away some of that. So really quick, this is what I've done. Now, if you wanna increase the effect when things get really close to the light source, you can use brighter tones. So I'm gonna get the brush tool again and just use something really bright. Maybe that's even too bright. And I'm gonna lower the opacity, in this case to 20, and just a couple of passes right over there. Like so. If you're patient enough, you could even just paint the creases of here and here and really be precise with this if you want to, but it's not my case. So just gonna leave it like so, because I'm gonna make it worse. So I'm gonna leave it just on this downside on this bottom part, and that's it. Now for the second light, we're gonna create a new layer, and I'm gonna name this glow or glows, and we're gonna put it on screen. Now we're gonna intensify this, and the screen blend mode creates this sort of soft light effect. We're gonna set the blend mode, in this case, to 100 and the flow to 100 as well. And here, the amount of effect that we see really depends on how bright we make the image, just like on the other case. So I'm gonna show you how the effect that you get with this, and then what happens when I when I make it darker. So I'm gonna start here, and I'm gonna use something like that. You can see it's really strong and not really what I'm looking for. So I want to lower it like so. Instead of dropping the opacity or the flow, I'm going to make the whole color darker. Now, what happens is that if you want to build up the effect, you won't be able to do it. So what you can do is let's say, set the opacity to 50 and the flow to 50 as well, and use a brighter tone. And that way you can build up the effect, because we have a lower opacity, but the color itself is stronger. So each time we click, we get a stronger effect. So I could do that here. It's even too strong. So let's drop the opacity to 30 and the flow to 30 as well. Just to create this kind of big glows around here. And here as well. Oh, I forgot to paint the light on the boots, but anyways. And the same here. Couple of clicks, and here with that blue tone that we used earlier, just a couple of clicks there to make the glow of this gadget. And now we can paint around here. I'm going to sample colors from there, and just a few clicks, this bluish tone around here, and also around here. Maybe the opacity is too low now, so I'm gonna raise it to 50 and flow to 70, so that I have to make less clicks. And the same here, just a few glows to make this look a little softer. here I'm gonna add a few clicks, and with a smaller brush some others, probably add some more color. Oops, even more, like so. Yeah, it looks better. And probably a couple of clicks over there as well. And these are my glows. I'm gonna leave it like that. I'm not gonna add more stuff in here. Let me check what I got here. Here is just a this layer over here is just add a little more texture around this, but I'm not gonna create it now because I don't think it's necessary. Then I use the color lookup. Now this color lookup, you'll have it here on the resources folder. I don't know if I placed it there yet, but I'm gonna add it. I'm gonna create a color lookup. And all you need to do is just click here and choose load 3D LUT, and inside of the resources folder you will have this preset that I'm going to use, which is PSD box LA6, maybe it was. Yep, I think it was LA6. Yes, this one over here. And this is from a pack that I created myself. So I'm going to go to the site so you can see where you can download that whole pack if you want all the presets. So once you log in, this is for premium members. Go to premium resources. And here you'll find all the available downloads, and I think it's the landscape LUTs. It's this thing over here, artistic landscape LUTs, and just you will see a download link if you have access to it, and it's just you'll download all the presets from here. Okay, let's go back to Photoshop, and the next thing I did is I created a new layer, and then I merged everything into this new layer. So press Shift Alt Control E or Shift Option Command E on a Mac, and you can see it's like taking a snapshot of all the layers onto a new layer. I'm going to turn this into a smart object and go to Filter and choose Camera Raw Filter. Now I gave you the preset for the final effect, and in order to load it, if you see this icon over here, choose load settings. The reason why I did this is just because I don't want to go to all the sliders. There's no mystery to it, so just select camera raw final.xmp. There's no mystery to it. I just edit the slides here as I saw I like it. Everyone can make the changes however they like. You can cycle through all of these tabs and see what I did. And I'm just gonna add a gradient like this thing over here. I'm gonna reset local correction settings, and I just want to add a little bit more exposure and clarity to add more light on her face. Maybe the highlights a little brighter and a little more contrast. And of course you can add all sorts of effects here. For example, you can intensify these glows by adding more softness maybe, or with the dehaze you can do something like that. I can add a big glow of light over here, so you can further edit this here in Camera Raw. It's really powerful. Reset local correction settings. For example, I could change the temperature of this, or I don't know, maybe I can increase the exposure to add more light if I need to. So we can edit parts of the image using this using Camera Raw. So I'm gonna leave it like that and click OK. And this is the final effect after Camera Raw has been applied. So before Camera Raw and after, you can see it's pretty powerful. So we're done with this. Let me take a snapshot so we can see how far we've gone with this. Another snapshot. So we went from this to this. So I really like this kind of futuristic, light intensive manipulations, and they're really kind of simple. Once you make a couple of them, you can see that pretty much the techniques are the same, and it's just a matter of creativity, what you add, the elements. You can make it, of course, a lot more complex and add, I don't know, maybe weapons or I don't know, gadgets, all sorts of light effects and futuristic UI interfaces around here. I don't know, it's really up to you. As I said, I'm going to give you the link. I'm going to put it right here back on the screen so you can see this Russian guy. I don't remember right now the name, but you'll see it here on the screen. And you can go there and get inspiration or follow him. It has really, really great artworks. So that's all for today. I hope you enjoyed this premium tutorial, and we'll see you next time.